This moon, as you can see by the title, I'm personally a Christian. Obviously not going to get too deep in the weeds about my personal theology and things along those lines, but I do Bible studies, but then also general religious studies on this channel. Other than doing devotional Bible talk during my Bible studies, I normally am doing more general scholarship-based things instead of just strictly sticking to the core of like devotional stuff. So a lot of my religious studies on this channel is generally based around understanding different backgrounds, different belief systems, different ways of life for the sake of respect, for the sake of love, and also just a general sense of admiration for different faith-based communities. So again, I'm Andrew Douglas Moon, never here to argue and debate with people. That's just letting you know ahead of time what this channel is all about. And sending oceans of love to all you guys. I'm going to pray at the end of this stream, as I normally do for all of my Bible study streams. But again, we're going to be reading the Bhagavad Gita today. So just letting you know, again, it's not that I'm sitting here saying that I think people should believe the things that I read when I do. I just read to you guys to understand, if somebody who's read these texts before has an appreciation for them, different walks of life and different belief systems that people come from. So I did an introductory stream yesterday of the Bhagavad Gita. It's one of my favorite texts from other religious communities that I've ever read before. So again, I read these things just to let this be very clear again ahead of time. This is never for arguments or debates and stuff like that. Never to put down other different walks of life or belief systems. It's simply to just have respect for and to get a grasp of what other people believe and where they come from, because otherwise you just don't really ever get to know people very well and have good conversations if you don't really know what they believe and where they come from. So yesterday I already started reading. If you don't know anything about the Bhagavad Gita, it's one of the central texts for Hinduism. It is not the only one. There are the Vedas, and there's so much more to get into. But this is one of the more well-known things that you can just go get at any store pretty much. There's the Upanishads and other things that we're going to get to in the future. But just throwing it out there, this is a central text, and it starts off around the person of Arjuna, who is in the midst of, the Gita is an excerpt from a much larger tale that is extremely long, very, very long, but we're going to get to that someday. But Arjuna is basically a leader from a certain region, and him and his kinsmen of different locations are going to be into a battle. They're about to get into a war with one another, and Arjuna requests to, that Krishna, who at the time he doesn't really know just yet, is a manifestation of God, the creator, and so forth, the absolute center of all things. Arjuna doesn't know that Krishna is that being just yet, and he requests him, and he says, charioteer, and he says, take me into the center so I can see all my kinsmen, basically. So he gets there, he sees all his family members, and he doesn't want to kill them, he doesn't want to fight. And basically that's what he expresses, is he can't do it. He can't kill people he loves. And then Krishna reveals basically who he really is and starts to explain to him what it looks like to live out your duty as a person and to understand what all things actually are and are not. So with that being said, I'm going to continue reading pretty much from where I was yesterday. We are in the second form, and I'm going to continue reading from there. So with that being said, again, I'm personally identified as a Christian, but I respect the different belief systems and try to understand them from their own stances and stuff like that. So thanks for popping through, and I love you guys. I appreciate y'all. So some perceive it directly in all its awesome, before birth, beings are unmanifest, between birth and death, manifest, at death, unmanifest again. What calls for grief in all this? Some perceive it directly in all its awesomeness. Others speak of it with wonder. Others hear of it and never know. This self, capital S as it says, this self who dwells in the body is inviolable forever. Therefore, you have no cause to grieve for any being, Arjuna. Know what your duty is and do it without hesitation. For a warrior, there is nothing better than a battle that duty enjoins. Just throwing this out there, the battle that Arjuna in this poem is about to have, he is not like it's just at him versus other people and it's neutral. Those from his kinsmen from other locations and stuff have done evil deeds. They have evil agendas in the story, basically, and it's kind of the centerpiece of where everything's coming from. So it's not just like it's one guy versus another guy and it just is what it is. It's him being charged to carry out his duty when he doesn't want to, but there is a reason behind why he needs to carry that duty out. So know what your duty is, do it without hesitation. For a warrior, there is nothing better than a battle that duty enjoins. So the duty to carry out this, to stomp out this evil, basically. Blessed are warriors who are given the chance of a battle like this, which calls them to do what is right and open the gates of heaven. But if you refuse the call to a righteous war and shrink from what duty and honor dictate, you will bring down ruin on your head. Decent men for all time will talk about your disgrace, and disgrace for a man of honor is a fate far worse than death. The great heroes will think that fear has driven you from battle. All those who once esteemed you will think of you with contempt. And your enemies will sneer and mock you. The mighty Arjuna, the brave man, he slunk from the field like a dog. What deeper shame could there be? So the idea here is the pushing of following through with your duty. And again, the duty is not just to go to war in of itself. It is the duty of there is evil being done, and he is supposed to defend against that, to fight against that and stomp it out. But he just doesn't want to because it's his kinsmen, it's his family here that he's fighting against. By the way, to anybody who's watching, could you just let me know real quick? I don't need you to interact in any other way. Could you let me know in the comments if my audio sounds okay? Earlier when I did a Bible study stream this morning, my audio started going funky towards the end. So if you could just let me know, I'd appreciate that, and thank you very much. But anyway, your enemies will sneer and mock you, the mighty Arjuna. Yeah, so if you are killed, you gain heaven, triumph, and you gain the earth. Therefore, stand up, Arjuna, steady your mind to fight. Indifferent to gain or loss, the victory or defeat, prepare yourself for the battle and do not succumb to sin. This is philosophy's wisdom. Now hear the wisdom of yoga. Armed with this understanding, you will shatter karmic bonds. On this path, no effort is wasted. No gain is ever reversed. Even a little of this practice will shelter you from great sorrow. Resolute understanding is single-pointed, Arjuna, but the thoughts of the irresolute are many-branched and endless. Foolish men talk of religion in cheap, sentimental words, leaning on the scriptures, saying, God speaks here alone. Driven by desire for pleasure and power, caught up in ritual, they strive to gain heaven, but rebirth is the only result of their striving. Just to break this down real quick, in Hinduism, there's the concept of reincarnation. Reincarnation is not a good thing in and of itself. So a lot of people perhaps have this misconception that in Hinduism, that reincarnation is an awesome thing, that we just can't wait to be reborn. Who cares about this life? Will we be reborn again? The idea is to achieve in Hinduism what they call moksha. So it's basically this idea of being liberated from this current, from life as a whole, and not having to keep going through the cycle again, because the point of life is to realize there is divinity, to understand God in the truest nature. That's kind of the idea here in Hinduism. So it says, driven by desire for pleasure and power, caught up in ritual, they strive to gain heaven, but rebirth is the only thing that the result of their striving. They are lured by their own desires, besotted by the scripture's words. Their minds have not been made clear by the practice of meditation. The scriptures dwell in duality. Be beyond all opposites, Arjuna, anchored in the real and free from all thoughts of wealth and comfort. As unnecessary as a well is to a village on the banks of a river, so unnecessary are all scriptures to someone who has seen the truth. You have a right to your actions, but never to your actions' fruits. Act for action's sake and do not be attached to inaction. Self-possessed, resolute, act without any thought of results, open to success or failure. The equanimity is yoga. Action is far inferior to the yoga of insight. Arjuna, pitiful are those who, acting, are attached to their actions' outcomes or fruits. The wise man lets go of all results, whether good or bad, and is focused on the action alone. Yoga is skill in actions. The wise man whose insight is firm, relinquishing the fruits of action, is freed from the bondage of rebirth and retains the place beyond sorrow. When your understanding has passed beyond the thicket of delusions, there is nothing you need to learn from even the most sacred scripture. Indifferent to scriptures, your mind stands by itself, unmoving, absorbed in deep meditation. This is the essence of yoga. So, to the Christian mentality, it's like obviously like as far away from the traditional Christian concept of that the scriptures are everything, technically speaking. Not actually literally. And when I say that, again, as a Christian, I definitely cherish the Bible from start to finish. I do Bible studies on here all the time for hours. That's not the point. The point is, the Word of God as represented in actual Scripture ultimately boils down to the personification and the existence of Jesus as the literal spoken Word of God. The Scriptures that are the handwritten Scriptures are also called the Word of God in Christianity, but there's a difference in understanding of that. But my point that I'm trying to make is this, is the Bible is like the sacred text that we like hold on to and cling to in Christianity, whereas in Hinduism, this isn't saying they're unimportant. It's the idea that within and of yourself, meditation and prayer and being out in nature and so forth is connecting to God. And you don't, like, if you already are connected, as it says over, where was it at? As unnecessary as a well is to a village on the banks of a river, so unnecessary are all scriptures to someone who has seen the truth. So it's this idea that if you have connected to God in wholeness and understand who he is and what God is into this world, then in that concept they see it as you don't need to read anything. Basically, you just meditate and pray and connect to God is the way they see it. So how would you, Arjuna is now saying, how would you describe the man whose wisdom is steadfast then, Krishna? How does the wise man speak? How does he sit, stand, and walk? The blessed Lord says, when a man gives up all desires that emerge from the mind, rests contented in the self by the self, he is called a man of firm wisdom. He whose mind is untroubled by any misfortune, whose craving for pleasures has disappeared, who is free from greed, fear, or anger, who is unattached to all things, who neither grieves nor rejoices if good or if bad things happen, that man is firm. That man is a firm wisdom. Having drawn back all his senses from the objects of sense as a tortoise draws back into its shell, that man is a man of firm wisdom. Sense objects fade for the abstinent, yet the craving for them continues. But even the craving vanishes from someone who has seen the truth. So what you're getting there again is this idea that the closer you come to God, the creator, the existing immanent source of all, in this writing here, it's the idea that the less you will have cravings for things of vain nature, for existing material things, and all kinds of other stuff as well, like power, lust for achievement, all this other stuff. Instead, you just do for the sake of doing. You exist and do and act for the sake of doing, existing, and acting. That's kind of the idea here. So never be attached to the outcomes of things versus just doing things for the sake of doing them. At first, although he continually tries to subdue them, the turbulent senses tear at his mind and violently carry it away. Restraining the senses, disciplined, he should focus his whole mind on me. God, here's who he's referring to. When the senses are in his control, that man is a man of firm wisdom. If a man keeps dwelling on sense objects, attachment to them arises. From attachment, desire flares up. From desire, anger is born. From anger, confusion follows. From confusion, weakness of memory. Weak memory, weak understanding. Weak understanding comes to ruin. But the man who is self-controlled, who meets the objects of senses with neither craving nor aversion, will attain serenity at last. So it's that teaching that balance, technically speaking. So it's that understanding of, like, again, let's read this one more time. If a man keeps dwelling on sense objects, taste, feel, touch, sensory objects like that, attachment to them then will arise from dwelling on them. From attachment, then desire flares up. From desire, anger is born. From anger, confusion follows. From confusion, weakness of memory. And then weak memory causes weak understanding. Weak understanding causes ruin, or it leads to ruin. But the man who is self-controlled, who meets the objects of the senses with neither craving nor aversion, will attain serenity at last. In serenity, all his sorrows disappear at once. Forever, when his heart has become serene, his understanding is steadfast. The undisciplined have no wisdom, no one-pointed concentration. With no concentration comes no peace. With no peace, where can joy be? When the mind constantly runs after the wandering senses, it drives away wisdom like the wind, blowing a ship off course. So, Arjuna, when someone is able to withdraw his senses from every object of sensation, that man is a man of firm wisdom. In the night of all beings, the wise man sees only the radiance of the self. But the sense world, where all beings wake for him, is a dark night, or as dark as night, as it teaches here. The man who desires enter as rivers flow into the sea, filled yet always unmoving. That man finds perfect peace. Abandoning all desires, acting without craving, free from all thoughts of I, me, and mine, that man finds utter peace. This is the divine state, Arjuna. Absorbed in it, everywhere, always, even at the moment of death, he vanishes into God's bliss. So again, that idea here that we keep seeing when we read through the Gita, which is, again, a Hindu text. We're doing religious studies here, so I myself am a Christian, but I'm reading through this. I've read through this multiple times in my life. As we study different belief systems, it's not to argue with them or be hateful. It's to understand different points of view and to see that any good believer of God is going to recognize that inside of all people is access to God and the ability to access God. And throughout history and different belief systems, you can't pretend that there are no nuggets of truth that have arisen 100%, even if there's things you disagree with. I 100% don't believe in reincarnation. That's me. Maybe you do. I have my reasons for being a Christian, which we can talk about at some point, but I'm just making this point that I don't believe in reincarnation. But the idea of what goes around comes around, do unto others as you would have done unto yourself, that's literally in Matthew 7. We see that idea as being one of the most important traits learning Hinduism throughout the whole idea. And letting God be the action through all things, realizing that God is through all things you do, is as well a similar, very important thing to take on. So chapter 3 is the yoga of action. If you don't understand this, a yoga is kind of a concept of things to do, how to exist, all that stuff. So when we think about yoga and the you're in America, when you're in Europe or wherever, and you see a yoga shop, people are stretching and all that stuff. It's not really the word yoga in the way that it was used throughout stuff like the Bhagavad Gita. So the yoga of action is not people using action to sit around and to do poses and stuff. What's up, Kia? Super happy to see you once again, my friend. I appreciate you being here. Saw a very cute post, I believe, that you did to my good buddy there earlier today on Facebook. So really love seeing you guys' love for one another. But yeah, so again, just letting you know, as we read through these Hindu texts, when you see something like yoga, it doesn't mean sitting around doing the dog pose or something like that. So Arjuna says, if you think that understanding is superior to action, Lord Krishna, why do you keep on urging me to engage in this savage act? For if you don't know, if you're just coming through here, the act is Arjuna not wanting to have to go to battle, even though there's a good reason for it. He doesn't want to have to go to battle with his family members. So again, if you think that understanding is superior to action, why do you keep urging me to engage in this savage act? With words that seem inconsistent, your teaching has bewildered my mind. Tell me, what must I do to arrive at the highest good? The Blessed Lord said, in this world there are two main paths, the yoga of understanding for contemplative men, and for men who are active, the yoga of action. Can you let me know, Kia, by the way, if my audio is coming through good? Earlier today it sounded like I was in a bowl of popcorn. Not by avoiding actions does a man gain freedom from action, and not by renunciation alone can he reach the goal. No one, not even for an instant, can exist without acting. All beings are compelled, however unwilling, by the three strands of nature called the gunas. That sounds great. Thank you, Kia. I appreciate you. He who controls his actions but lets his mind dwell on sensory objects is deluding himself and spoiling his search for the deepest truth. The superior man is he whose mind can control his senses, with no attachment to results. He engages in the yoga of action. Do any actions you must do, since action is better than inaction. Even the existence of your body depends on necessary actions. The whole world becomes a slave to its own activity, Arjuna. If you want to be truly free, perform all actions as a sense of worship. The Lord of creatures formed worship together with mankind and said, by worship you will always be fruitful and wishes be fulfilled. By worship you will nourish the gods, and the gods will nourish you in return. By nourishing one another, you assure the well-being of all. Nourished by your worship, the gods will grant whatever you desire, but he who accepts their gifts and gives nothing back is a thief. Good men are released from their sins when they eat food offered in worship, but the wicked devour their own evil when they cook for themselves alone. Beings arise from food, food arises from rain arises from worship from ritual action from God, and God from the deathless self. Thus, the all-present God requires the worship of men. He who fails to keep turning the wheel thus set in motion has damaged the working of the world and has wasted his life, Arjuna. But the man who delights in the self, who feels pure contentment and finds perfect peace in the self, for him there is no need to act. He has nothing to achieve by action, nothing to gain by inaction, nor does he depend on any person outside of himself. Without concern for results, perform the necessary action. Surrendering all of your attachments, accomplish life's highest good. Only by selfless action did Janaka and the other wise kings govern and thus assure the well-being of the whole world. Whatever a great man does, ordinary people will do. Whatever standard he sets, everyone else will follow. So again, he's speaking to a leader here and explaining to him, Lord Krishna is explaining to Arjuna the idea that attaching to your actions too much and their results is not good for anyone. Instead, you have to do your duties and follow through with them, and then the outcomes of them, whether they go good or bad, success or failure, either way, that's not, don't let it hold you back from continuing forward with more action. So that's just what we're seeing here as we go through. In the three worlds, Arjuna, There's nothing I need to do, nothing I must attain, and yet I engage in action. For if I were to refrain from my tireless, continual action, mankind would follow my example and would also not act, Arjuna. If I stop acting, these worlds would plunge into chaos and in ruin, would overpower all beings, mankind would be destroyed. Or excuse me, chaos would overpower all beings and mankind would be destroyed. So he's saying that just like you have to keep going through with the act of action, as well, he is God, the sustainer. If he was to stop acting, all things would just plunge into chaos and be destroyed, is kind of the idea here. Though the unwise cling to their actions, watching for the results to see what happens, the wise are free from attachments and act for the well-being of the whole world. So that's what you're going to see over and over again as we go through the Bhagavad Gita, is this idea that being selfless and acting for the sake of helping others and the care of others is very, very important. Now, again, when you, to all my Indian friends and so forth, when you see, unfortunately, throughout colonization and other aspects of history throughout places like India and so forth, you can see that the things like the caste system ended up being going very screwy, going funky, and not being good for the overall, like just being put into action. But it's just very similar to like being a Christian and not following through what Jesus teaches. That is just something that unfortunately happened. So yeah, we're going to continue to see more and more of that. So so the wise man does not unsettle the minds of the ignorant. Quietly acting in the spirit of yoga, he inspires them to do the same. Actions are really performed by the working of the three gunas. But a man deluded by the I sense, like I am me, imagines that I am the doer. The wise man knows that when objects act on the senses, it is merely the gunas acting on the gunas, thus he is unattached. Deluded by the gunas, men grow. Attached to the gunas' actions, the insightful should not disturb the minds of the foolish men. Performing all actions for my sake, desireless, absorbed in the self, indifferent to I and mine, let go of your grief and fight. Men who constantly practice this teaching of mine, Arjuna, who trust it with all their heart, are freed from the bondage of actions. But those who are mistrustful, half-hearted, and fail to practice my teaching, wander in the darkness, lost, stupefied by delusion. Even the wise man acts in accordance with his inner nature. All beings follow their nature. What good can repression do? Well, craving and aversion arise when the senses encounter sense objects. Do not fall prey to these two, brigands blocking your path. It is better to do your own duty badly than to perfectly do another's. You are safe from harm when you do what you should be doing. So Arjuna said, what is it that drives a man to do evil action, Krishna, even against his will, as if some force made him do it? The force is desire. It is anger. Oh, this is the Lord is speaking back to him. The force is desire. It is anger, arising from the guna called rajas. Deadly and all-devouring, that is the enemy here. As a fire is obscured by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, as a fetus is wrapped in its membrane, so wisdom is obscured by desire. Wisdom is destroyed, Arjuna, by the constant enemy of the wise, which flaring up as desire blazes with insatiable flames. Desire dwells in the senses, the mind, and the understanding. In all these it obscures wisdom and perplexes the embodied self. Therefore, you must control your senses, Arjuna, then destroy this evil that prevents you from ever knowing the truth. Men say that the senses are wrong, but the mind is stronger than the senses. The understanding is stronger than the mind, and the strongest is yourself, the all-knowing self. Knowing the self, which is to know the self in Hinduism means to know that God who is within you. So you're not actually like the creator God, but God resides within everyone. Knowing the self, sustaining the self by the self, Arjuna, kill the difficult to conquer enemy called desire. So next up, we're going into now chapter 4 in the Bhagavad Gita, which is called the Yoga of Wisdom. So the Blessed Lord said, I taught this imperishable doctrine to Vivasvat, God of the sun, more than 100 billion years ago. Vivasvat told it to Manu, father of the humans, Manu to the king Ikshvaku, transmitted from one generation to the next as it was for eons. To all the primeval wise men, the seers and philosopher kings, but over the dwindling ages the doctrine has been lost, Arjuna. Forgive me. This is the doctrine, this is the ancient doctrine that I have taught you today, since you are my devotee and my friend. This is the innermost doctrine. But you were born countless eons later than the God of the sun. How then is it possible that you taught this doctrine to him? Many times I have been born, and many times you have. Also, all the lives I remember, you recall only this one. Although I am unborn, deathless, the infinite Lord of all beings, through my wondrous power, I come into finite form. Whenever righteousness falters and chaos threatens to prevail, I take on a human body and manifest myself on earth. In order to protect the good, to destroy the doers of evil, to ensure the triumph of righteousness, in every age I am born. Whoever knows profoundly my divine presence on earth is not reborn when he leaves the body, but comes to me. Released from greed, fear, anger, absorbed in me and made pure by the practice of wisdom, many attained my own state of being. However men try to reach me, I return their love with my love. Whatever path they may travel, it leads back to me in the end. So the idea here also that you're going to continue to see here is like Arjuna just asked in this question, and Krishna responds like, I am the ultimate, like connecting to the ultimate source. I am God in the flesh. And that every time, like he says, whenever righteousness falters and chaos threatens to prevail, he takes on a human body and comes into this world to start to teach, to be a great sage, a great leader, what have you. It's kind of why, even though, again, I obviously as a Christian don't believe this way, but I can see where they're coming from. A lot of Hindus, not all, but a lot of Hindus have seen throughout history that Jesus himself was like another manifestation, like he was God in the flesh, to be here to show us like, look, things are getting out of hand in the Roman Empire, all that stuff. It's not like crazy to see how people would see that. You get what I mean? Wishing success in their actions, men sacrifice to the gods, for ritual can bring success quickly in the world of men. I founded the forecast system with the gunas appropriate to each. Although I did this, know that I am the eternal non-doer. Actions cannot defile me, since I am indifferent to the results. All those who understand this will not be bound by their actions. This is how actions were done by the ancient seekers of freedom. Follow their example. Act, surrendering the fruits of action. What are action and inaction? This matter confuses even wise men, so I will teach you and free you from any harm. You must realize that action is what wrong action and inaction are as well. The true nature of action is profound and difficult to fathom. Who can see inaction in the midst of action and action in the midst of inaction, is wise and can act in the spirit of yoga. With no desire for success, no anxiety about failure, indifferent to results, he burns up his actions in the fire of wisdom. Surrendering all thoughts of outcome, unperturbed, self-reliant, he does nothing at all even when fully engaged in actions. There is nothing that he expects, nothing that he fears, serene, free from possessions, untainted, acting with the body alone. Content with whatever happens, unattached to pleasure or pain, successes or failure, he acts and is never bound by his action. When a man has let go of attachments, when his mind is rooted in wisdom, everything he does is worship, and his actions all melt away. God is the offering, God is the offered, poured out by God. God is attained by all those who see God in every action. So men of yoga pray to the gods and make this their worship. Some offer worship by worship itself in the fire of God. Others offer their senses in the fire of self-abnegation. Others offer their senses objects. Others offer the senses objects in the fire of the senses. Others offer all actions of the senses and of breath in the fire, kindled by wisdom of the yoga of self-restraint. Some offer wealth, austerities, their practice of yoga. Others, ascetics, offer their studies of the scriptures and wisdom itself. Others, intent on control of their vital forces, offer their in-breath into their out-breath, or their out-breath into their in-breath. Others, while fasting, offer their in-breath into their in-breath. All these understand worship. By worship, they are cleansed of sin. Partaking of the essence of worship, forever they are freed of themselves, but non-worshippers cannot be happy in this world or any other. So it's the idea that if you're not letting God be through you in all things and doing selfless action for others and for the sake of doing without worrying about the results, you'll never be free. That's what this is teaching. Thus, many forms of worship may lead to freedom, Arjuna. All these are born of action. When you know this, you will be free. Better than any ritual is the worship achieved through wisdom. Wisdom is the final goal of every action. Similar to the idea of what we read through when I do my Bible study streams, reading through the Proverbs, how, again, seeking after wisdom and the understanding of wisdom and its purpose through prudence. Find a wise teacher, honor him, ask him your questions, and serve him. Someone who has seen the truth will guide you on the path to wisdom. When you realize it, you will never fall back onto the delusion. Knowing it, you see all things in yourself and yourself in me. Even if you were the most evil of evildoers, Arjuna, wisdom is the boat that would carry you across the sea of all sin. Just as firewood is turned to ashes in the flames of a fire, all actions are turned to ashes in wisdom's refining flames. Nothing in the world can purify as powerfully as wisdom. Practiced in yoga, you will find this wisdom within yourself. Resolute, restraining his senses, the man of faith becomes wise. Once he attains true wisdom, he soon attains perfect peace. Ignorant men without faith are easily mired by doubt. They can never be truly happy in this world or the world beyond. Syncretism, are you? No, I'm not. So just to make this clear, I have to restate this all the time, but I teach religions as a whole. So the idea is very specific. Even though I am a Christian and I do Bible studies and scholarship and so forth, the idea is different people don't have a concept whatsoever of different people's belief systems. Very bad, because there is truth through it, not all, certainly, but there is truth throughout the scriptures of a lot of belief systems out there. Although they are not, again, I'm going to say this, I mean no offense to anybody, but it is just my personal stance. They are not the true path. They are not the right way that God has intended necessarily for things to be followed out through. But in all people is the ability to have access to truth, and God is available to all folks. So the idea is that when we come to understand how different people come to their conclusions, what they believe, where they stand at, you have a better way of having communication with people, of at least understanding people one way or the other. And so that is why I not only myself have been studying all these different scriptures for years to understand where people are coming from, what they teach, what they get. Because again, as a Christian, you don't get to go, people take our book out of context all the time. We do say that a lot, because don't get me wrong, people do that a lot. But more than that, we do the same thing to other people. So I know most people are like, who cares? Oh, I'm a Christian. I know the right path or whatever. Who cares? Believe me, that is not the posture that we should exist with, to say who gives a crap about what other people believe. So I'm not you, Mike. I'm just making a point that a lot of people are like, who cares what other people believe or whatever. And that's just my stupid way of going about things, because from the very beginning, people have developed and had different belief systems. So that's why we read these things, to understand. But yeah, I definitely think that there's no way I could communicate effectively with other people of any way, shape, or form if I approached them immediately with the stance of, hey, I have a different belief than you. Your belief is stupid. It's awful. People do that all the time. And again, it's just as easy for somebody to do that in return. That's why when I do my Bible studies, I get really, really deep into it as much as possible. And we got to be really honest about things and what things are, like, not appealing to our modern sensibilities, all this other stuff, because at the end of the day, just as quickly as we could rag on somebody and their scriptures and so forth, somebody as well can do to us in return. It's very easy to do, especially when we don't have a really good grasp half the time of our own scriptures. So yeah, that's why I do these things, and I love doing religious studies and help encourage and teach people if we can do so. But I have been expecting a lot when I do these streams for fellow believers and people who subscribe to this channel who don't understand what it is that I'm doing. Again, not you, just other people. I've expected people to come through and be like, what are you doing? This is bad. And I get like why people would feel that way. But we got to back up and go, hey, let's appreciate where different people are coming from. So yeah, because there is definitely wonderful faith things, wonderful understandings to extract from stuff like this, while also getting that, okay, there's a lot of stuff that's definitely like not conducive to where God definitely has put into play things need to be. So with that being said, I'm going to continue for ignorant men without faith are easily mired in doubt. They can never be truly happy in this world or the world beyond. Hey, even that right there, that's a statement that while we have a different stance on what it means to have faith, that's something right there that I'm like, yeah, 100%. Ignorant men without faith are easily mired in doubt. They can never be truly happy in this world or the world beyond. A man is not bound by action when he renounces action through yoga. Again, just remembering that yoga doesn't mean stretching and all that stuff in the sense the way it is presented in these books. Who concentrates on the self, whose doubt is cut off by wisdom. Therefore, the sword of wisdom cut off this doubt in your heart. Follow the path of selfless action and stand up. Next up is chapter 5. This is the yoga of renunciation. So Arjuna said, you have praised both renunciation and the yoga of action, Krishna. Now tell me, which of these two paths is the better path? The Lord said to him, the Lord is the name, the blessed Lord is the person of Krishna in this. So he is God manifested in the flesh. in this sense, in the story. So renunciation and yoga, according to the Lord, both lead to the ultimate good. But of the two paths, Arjuna, yoga is the more direct. To true renunciate neither desires things nor avoids them. Indifferent to pleasure and pain, he is easily freed from all bondage. Fools say that knowledge and yoga are separate, but the wise do not. When you practice one of them deeply, you gain the rewards of both. The state reached by true knowledge is reached by yoga as well. Both paths lead to the self. Both lead to selfless action. It is hard to renounce all action without engaging in action. The sage, wholehearted in the yoga of action, soon attains freedom. Wholehearted, purified, mastering body and mind himself, becomes the self of all beings. He is unsustained, or unstained by anything he does. The man who has seen the truth thinks, I am not the doer at all times. When he sees, hears, touches, when he smells, eats, walks, sleeps, and breathes, when he poops, basically is what the next part says, defecates, talks or takes hold, when he opens his eyes or shuts them, at all times he thinks this is merely sense objects acting on the senses. Offering his actions to God, he is free of all action. Sin rolls off of him as drops of water rolls off a lotus leaf. Surrendering attachment, the sage performs all actions with his body, his mind, and his understanding only to make himself pure. The resolute in yoga surrender results and gain perfect peace. The irresolute, attached to results, are bound by everything they do. So just to take a quick pause here. So the very first many times, this is me sharing some thoughts that I read through the Gita. And I was like, wow, this is a very interesting piece of literature. I can understand a lot of good that this has done for Hinduistic people in the past. One thing, though, that this understanding of renunciating, renouncing attachment to all things, very quickly throughout, as we continue forward, you'll probably see how I got to this point. And again, we don't do this to say that I personally believe in all this stuff either. It's just to respect other walks of life. But as a Christian, one thing that kind of struck me a lot was I was like, is it like saying in like an almost Buddhist type of concept of like letting go of just all attachment in general, and to think that instead there is strength spiritually to be completely neutral and to not allow yourself, if we were taking this to an extreme, it's almost like the idea of, okay, so this is trying to teach that spiritually it's best to not love, to not have family, to not do that. Like, you'll see as we read through how it can be easy to go down that road and be like, okay, it's just trying to teach. Because in a Christian stance, like, no, definitely, like, we have to feel things. We have to experience things. We have to, in that sense, like what you just said, Mike. So it's like this idea of like detaching from all things. But in and of itself, I myself early on, and this is why, like I say, I do this so that we can grasp what different people believe, where they're coming from, and realize there's different schools of thought. Even in other belief systems, just like how there's different ways of looking at things through theology and hermeneutics and so forth as Christians. So for me, it was pretty easy at face value when I was reading through these the first time over and over again to be like, so this is just saying that God, in this sense, wants you to completely just detach from everything. But there's nuance to it. There was always nuance to it. And that's really kind of the most important thing here, is to understand that it's definitely not about detaching from everything. And to just see things as completely unimportant. You shouldn't have families. You shouldn't love, all this other stuff. It is just like a what's the word I'm looking for? Not an analogy, but it's just like this concept, right? It's a concept of backing off of excessive attachment to things. Because Hindu people have families, they have love, they believe in love, they believe in, obviously, as we see here, being endlessly selfless and all these other things. This is what at least is taught in the scriptures. So it's really easy to go from, okay, what is this really trying to say here when it talks about just detach, don't worry about results. But in reality, most definitely as a Christian, we care very much about the results of the actions that we do. Hindus do as well. I'm just making a point that it is really easy from these texts to as well go to that place of being like, so I should never care what happens. I should just do my duty. But the problem is that concept, just like with the caste system, this is just me sharing my thoughts, just like with the caste system, believing that you are born to have to fit into a specific station, and that this is where you need to be in life and just do that duty and stay in that place. Again, people in general in action don't really do that. But it is that concept that's not really, to me, helpful. But I get it. I get where it comes from, if you understand what I'm saying. So for me, I definitely believe that it is very important to not be overly affected by the outcomes of things, Obviously, God, like, as a Christian, God doesn't want us to just sit around dwelling 100%. When we read Jesus talking about, do not be anxious about the things of the day and stuff like that, we got to move forward, just trust God through everything. I definitely see that concept being here as well. But, we don't move forwards in life and build communities without caring about the results of our actions. So that is like something that I would see. Like, I hope that I'm making sense here, but there is a difference in the overall, I think, the healthy outcomes. How you could easily maybe overstep and take things from here. Not that there's not plenty of stuff, again, as a Christian in our own scriptures, that haven't been misconstrued or taken in very bad ways throughout history, but you get what I mean. So, it does not create the means or action of itself or the union of result and action. All these arise from nature. Nor does it partake of anyone's virtuous or evil actions. When knowledge of the self is obscured by ignorance, men act badly. So when knowledge of the self, or like the godliness within you, is obscured by ignorance, men act badly. But when ignorance is completely destroyed, then the light of wisdom shines like the midday sun and illumines what is supreme. Contemplating that, inspired and rooted and absorbed in that, men reach the state of true freedom from which there is no rebirth. Again, I myself 100% like am not. Even in my least, when I wasn't even a Christian and I was very much just into like a general sense of spirituality and stuff, the idea of reincarnation, I did not mean any offense to anyone, but it was always like, no, seasons. I can get how people can like look at the seasons of the world. Things die off and then come back, die off. But again, it's not that you get what I guess you can get where I'm going with this. But I've always been like, no, I don't believe that's the way things are. Long before I even became a Christian, I was like, no, reincarnation just, to me, similar in a vein. I'm about to share a thought here, so please nobody get upset. It's just my thought. But to me, it's just the same as like an atheistic stance that you die and everything's over with. In reality, like if you do have repetition of life and stuff, even if you don't remember what happened in the last life, it does have this value of, like, technically speaking, what I do here. It's easy to go from point A to point B of thinking things are meaningless, really. It doesn't really matter what I do. If I screw up here, I'll have another go around. So to me, having one shot, but that shot matters, and the results of what you do and how you live out this life and honoring God, it matters. So, yeah, for me, reincarnation just flops. But that's just, again, no offense. Not here to argue with people. And if anybody's got their own disagreements, that's totally okay. But yeah, so just as like the extreme of being on one end, I see it's the extreme in the other direction. Instead of just realizing you got this one shot, you make it matter. You learn who God is and you follow that. And you do good for communities and for people around you, so forth. You get what I'm saying. So anyway, wise men regard all things as equal. A learned priest, a cow, an elephant, a rat, or a filthy rat-eating outcast. That's an insult if I've ever heard one. I know it's not, but you filthy rat-eating outcast. So anyway, freed from the endless cycle of birth and death, they can act impartially toward all beings, since to them all beings are the same. They do not rejoice in good fortune, they do not lament at bad fortune. Lucid with minds unshaken, they remain within what is real. A man unattached to sensations who finds fulfillment in the self, whose mind has become pure freedom, attains an imperishable joy. Pleasures from external objects are wombs of suffering. That's a good quote. It's a nice phrase right there. Pleasures from external objects are wombs of suffering. Arjuna, they have their beginnings and their ends. No wise man seeks joy among them. Let's move forward, shall we? The man of yoga who is able to overcome here on earth the turmoil of desire and anger, that man is truly happy. He who finds peace and joy and radiance within himself, that man becomes one with God and vanishes into God's bliss. So as you can see, there are definitely things here that carry a beauty to them. This is all a poem. So similar in fashion to psalms and so forth, this whole thing is considered one large psalm, as most Hindu scriptures, basically. So the wise man, cleansed of his sins, who cut off all separation, who delights in the welfare of all beings, vanishes into God's bliss. He who controls his mind and has cut off desire and anger realizes the self. He knows that God's bliss is nearer than near. Closing his eyes, his vision focused between the eyebrows, making the in-breath and the out-breath equal as they pass through his nostrils. He controls his senses and his mind, intent upon liberation. When desire, fear, and anger have left him, the man is forever free. Knowing me as the enjoyer of all worship, the Lord of lords, the Lord of worlds, the dearest friend of all beings, that man gains perfect peace. So definitely, again, like I said, when you read through these texts, we can see there is an incredible amount of beauty to take from them. And also, one of the other reasons I wanted to do this is that anybody who comes back and listens, if they ever should do that, you will continue to develop a sense of where, because a lot of people say all religions are the same. Honestly, even though this is not saying that all things, it says there's many paths to the same destination. So many is not equal to all. But a lot of people, especially excessively spiritual people, kind of have this concept that every path ends up the same. Every religion is the same, but it's not. I can honestly say, as someone who's read through the Quran multiple times, read all these Hindu texts and so forth, and I have appreciation for them and the people who follow these beliefs, they're not all the same in any way. Like, there are similarities, but they're different. They're very, very different in intent and purpose, in the commands and stuff. So there might be similarities, but they are not the same. So just want to throw that out there. And that's one of the reasons, like I said, I wanted to do this, and I want to help other people learn what other people believe, where other people are coming from, because we are not all coming from or going to the same place in that idea. So anyway, the yoga of meditation. The Blessed Lord said, "He who performs his duty with no concern for results is the man of true yoga, not he who refrains from action. Know that right action itself is renunciation." Arjuna, in the yoga of action, you first renounce your own selfish will. For the man who wishes to mature, the yoga of action is the path. For the man already mature, serenity is the path. When a man has become unattached to sense objects or to actions, renouncing his own selfish will, that man, then he is mature in yoga. He should lift up the self by the self and not sink into the selfish, for the self is only the friend of the self and its only foe. So, it's starting to rain. Anyway, he should lift up the self by the self and not sink into the selfish. For the self is the only friend of the self and its only foe. The self is a friend for him who masters himself by the self, but for him who is not self-mastered, the self is the cruelest foe. When a man has mastered himself, he is perfectly at ease in cold, in heat, in pleasure or in pain, in honor or in disgrace. The mature man, fulfilled in wisdom, resolute, looks with equal detachment at a lump of dirt, a rock, or even a piece of pure gold. He looks impartially on all, those who love him or hate him, his kinsmen, his enemies, his friends, the good and also the wicked. The man of yoga should practice concentration alone, mastering in mind and body, free of possessions and desires. Sitting down, having chosen a spot that is neither too high nor too low, that is clean and covered with a grass mat, a deerskin, and a cloth, he should concentrate with his whole mind on a single object. If he practices in this way, his mind will soon become pure, with torso and head held straight, with posture steady and unmoving, gazing at the tip of his nose. I hate doing that myself. Not locking his eyes elsewhere. He should sit there calm, fearless, firm in his vow to be chaste, his whole mind controlled, directed, focused, absorbed in me. Constantly mastering his mind, the man of yoga grows peaceful, attains supreme liberation, and vanishes into my bliss. He who eats too much food or too little, who is always drowsy or restless, will never succeed in the yoga of meditation. For the man who is moderate in food and pleasure will never succeed, or the man who is moderate in food and pleasure, moderate in action, moderate in sleep and waking, yoga destroys all sorrow. So it's teaching the balance of being like in the middle when it comes to most actions, most things. You got to be right there in the middle, be moderate about stuff. With a mind grown clear and peaceful, freed from the selfish desires, absorbed in the self alone, he is called a true man of yoga. Reminds me of Paul's words about knowing the secret of being content no matter his circumstances, but Paul's contentment was from Christ. That is absolutely correct. So understanding who Christ was, his teachings, and so much coming from that, you are absolutely right, my friend. So, with that being said, a lamp sheltered from the wind, which does not flicker, to this is compared to the true man of yoga, whose mind has vanished itself. When his mind has become serene by the practice of meditation, he sees the self through the self and rests in the self, rejoicing. He knows the infinite joy that is reached by the understanding beyond the senses. Steadfast, he does not fall back from the truth. Attaining this state, he knows there is no higher attainment. He is rooted there, unshaken by even the deepest sorrow. This is the true yoga. The unbinding of the bonds of sorrow. Practice this yoga with determination and with a courageous heart. Abandoning all desires, born of his own selfish will, a man should learn to restrain his unruly senses with his mind. Gradually, he becomes calm and considers his understanding, focusing on the self. He should think of nothing at all. However, often the restless mind may break loose and wander. He should rein it in and constantly bring it back to the self. When his mind becomes clear and peaceful, he enters absolute joy. His passions are calmed forever, and he is utterly absorbed into God. Mastering mind and body, purified from all sin, he easily gains true freedom and finds infinite joy. So we can respect a similar idea of that. At the end of the day, praying, reminding, and residing in deep prayer consistently, like while you are praying, doing the best you can to try to stay focused as you're praying, because it can be really easy to get distracted. It can be really easy to lose sight. But as you sit there, as you continue to pray and talk to God and stuff, and try to get understanding of just connecting to what the whole point of prayer really is, we can get a kind of similar feel from this. Because a lot of times people think of prayer as sort of like a what can I get out of this type of thing. Prayer is a direct, loving communication with God, our Creator. When you are sitting there praying, the idea, wow, my head looks really weird when I ain't got my hat on. But anyway, as a Christian, prayer is not supposed to be like shaking the magic 8 ball and being like, okay, what can I get out of this, right? That's how we act about it a lot. That's not what the point of it is. The point is for us to develop our relationship with God. You sit there, you pray, you talk to the Lord, and that's kind of our whole purpose. Let me see real quick. Sorry, guys, my phone was vibrating and it got me. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. What? Oh, never mind. I'm an idiot. I was sitting there. I saw my wife's. She's in the doctor's office right now, and she sent me that her blood pressure was like 102/70, and I was like 102. And I was sitting there thinking, wait a minute. Yeah, it's supposed to be over 100. I was like, holy cow, is it supposed to be over 100? But anyway, so again, as a Christian, when we pray, the whole idea is to connect to God, to have communication, to develop relationship with God. And so it isn't supposed to be this idea of like, God, what can you do for me? What can you offer me? So I can kind of see that this concept of meditation, to just sit, exist, and dwell within God, within that space, to have God just dwelling within you because you understand that God is you. It's not you. You are not God. So people kind of take these words and misconstrue it the way it's supposed to be represented a lot. It's kind of like the idea as well. People as Christians, one of the things that we do that is a straw man is often talk about other people's beliefs in the sense that, oh, well, in Christianity, Christ does all the work. It's by grace through faith. But in other belief systems, they believe you got to work to earn your salvation. That's actually a lie. Even though, again, a lot of belief systems do not all lead to the same concepts at all whatsoever. And again, I'm personally a Christian. I will make this very clear. Many belief systems, up to and including Hinduism in and of itself, does not teach that you got to do all these crazy works to earn your salvation. Is in very fact, even though this is sitting here talking about to maintain action by realizing that everything that you're doing selflessly is God working through you, it is not sitting here saying, go out there and do good stuff if you want to be saved. Actually, just like in a lot of other situations, this core teaching in Hinduism is that just realizing who God ultimately is and that God is through all things is how you become liberated, if that makes any sense. So just wanted to throw that out there, is that a lot of times when we come after or when we have discussions with people at different walks of life and different beliefs, we can kind of start saying things that are not, making assumptions about other beliefs that aren't exactly accurate or true. While, again, we hate it when people do that to us as Christians. So that's one of the biggest reasons I wanted to do this, is just develop a sense of appreciation and respect for different walks of life and where they come from. So I'm not asking you to go sit there and read all the religious texts in the world, but the reason I've been doing this for years is so that way when I discuss with other people, I'm just not being rude to them. The man who sees me in everything, so again, mature in yoga, impartial everywhere he looks, he sees himself in all beings, and all beings in himself. The man who sees me in everything and everything within me will not be lost to me, nor will I ever be lost to him. So again, the man who sees God in everything. It's a beautiful sentiment, isn't it? He who is rooted in oneness realizes that I am in every being. Wherever he goes, he remains in me. When he sees all beings as equal in suffering or in joy because they are like himself, that man has grown perfect in yoga. Arjuna says, you have taught that the essence of yoga is equanimity, Krishna. But since the mind is so restless, how can that even be achieved? The mind is restless, unsteady, turbulent, wild, and stubborn. Truly, it seems to me, so hard to master as even the wind. The Blessed Lord said, you are right, Arjuna. The mind is restless and hard to master, but by constant practice and detachment, it can be mastered in the end. Yoga is indeed hard for those who lack self-restraint, but if you keep striving earnestly in the right way, you can reach it. Arjuna said, Krishna, what happens to the man who, with faith but no self-control, wanders from the path of yoga before he becomes mature? Hasn't he lost both the here and the hereafter? Doesn't he, rootless and insubstantial, fade like a cloud in the sky? This is the doubt that troubles me, Krishna. I beg you, please help me, for only you can remove this doubt from my mind. The Blessed Lord said, neither here nor hereafter, Arjuna, is that man lost. No one who does good work will come to an evil end. Reaching the heaven of the righteous after uncountable years, that man will be born again to parents who are upright and wealthy. He may have been born to parents who have practiced yoga and are wise, though a birth as fortunate as this is more difficult to obtain. So this is where it starts getting into the reincarnation stuff, which, like I said, I personally very much don't see that. I very much think that that's not a good understanding or even a way to try to comprehend the way things spiritually work. Again, that's just my opinion. So if you disagree, that's your thing. But I just see that it makes life, again, just inherently have a very severe lack of like full purpose, or to really do these things, right? To really do these goods. So he may have been, there he regains the knowledge acquired in his former life. And from that point on, Arjuna, he strives toward the ultimate goal. Unconsciously, he returns to his former practice. Even a man who asks about yoga goes beyond formal religion. Striving with constant effort, cleansing himself of all sin, through many lifetimes, at last he attains the ultimate goal. The man of yoga is greater than ascetics, which is funny, by the way, because you said earlier about asceticism. So that's literally one of the things that is often brought up throughout the Bhagavad Gita, is talking about the men who are, it's spelled the exact same way, those of ascetics, or the learned, or those who perform the rituals. Therefore, a man of yoga, my son, practice yoga sincerely with single-minded devotion, love me with perfect faith, and bring your whole self to me. So next up, and this is probably the last chapter that I'm actually going to read here today, is the chapter 7, which says the wisdom and realization. So, and by the way, just letting you know, anybody who comes through here, tomorrow I'm going to be doing another pretty decent, pretty lengthy Bible study session. Tomorrow we're going to be going through, when I do my Bible study session, we're going to be going through Genesis, I believe, 26 and 27, and then also continuing through, we're going to finish up the last 10 chapters of Acts, and then going to read through the beginning of Matthew, and a lot more stuff that we're going to be going through. Oh, look, my wife is actually almost here right now. She's about to hop into the car. So she'll be able to hopefully give us some good news from the doctor, and then also some other things. So come on. Look at her. Look at her. She's all excited. Let me see if I can move this real fast. Yay! There you are.
Oh, yeah. It's a hamster.
Well, tell me real quick. How did it go?
It was good.
Was it good?
Yeah, it was my physical, so everything looked great.
It was your physical. Did they talk to you about, I mentioned, by the way, we were here, you did your blood work and stuff. Did everything turn out good in the end?
Yes.
Is it stuff we can talk about on camera or no?
Basically, we need to eat healthier. So quinoa, broccoli, we need to get back to that.
What, because of the cholesterol and stuff?
Yes. Hello, world. I have high cholesterol. We've been eating like crap. We just had Chinese. We just, my mom's been cooking.
Yes, we go to my in-laws every day, most days of the week. And first of all, I'm from the South. She's originally from Rednecksville, Pennsylvania. I didn't know that.
Redneck.
Well, whatever. She's not from Pittsburgh. She's from Butler,
Outskirts.
The outskirts of Pittsburgh. Either way, long story short, though, most definitely, her mom cooks that good old Amish style, that Polish Amish style food. A lot of potatoes, lots of butter. So if you're trying to lose weight, it's very hard to do in those kind of circumstances.
My wife keeps buying us ice cream as well, like hot dogs and ice cream. Why?
Because they want us all to get big and nice and fat.
And nice and strong.
As I was just reading in those other passages in the Gita just a second ago about those who are like being moderate. Moderate in food and the things that you do is the way to go.
Yeah.
But anyway, real quick before I end this stream, would you like to, what do you want to do? You want to go back to the mall? What do you want to do?
Yeah, that's fine.
You want to do that or do you want to go home?
I don't care either way. I'll find things to do at home.
And by the way, to my buddy here, thank you, Siva, SBA. Definitely glad everything is good. Her test results came out fantastic for the most part, other than the high cholesterol. And yeah, you're right. Some ice cream doesn't hurt as long as it's some ice cream in moderation, but it ain't been some ice cream for us very, very often. But with that being said, so I actually just brain farted. Did you say you do want to go back or you want to go home?
Yeah. Going dogs would be fun.
Sounds good to me. Well, can you hold it?
See a movie, right?
Yeah, we can. Can you hold this just for a little bit, though? Because I did want to read this one last chapter before I go. So, again, I appreciate everybody who's taken the time to pop through as you have, taken the time to listen. It's been a good time just getting to appreciate and respect other belief systems. That's what I want to really encourage here on this channel. So, with that being, hey, would you like to read a chapter?
No.
I didn't think she would.
I'm a good reader.
You are good. Give it a shot. Here, read this. You can do it. You can do it. Let's practice.
What audience do you think you have here?
Let's practice your public speaking. Yay, you can do this. Hey, everybody, let's see if you can hear my wife. You're so cute. You got this. Go ahead.
The blessed Lord said.
No, louder.
Listen. I'm so shy. I can't do this.
So she actually works with customers and works in sales as a job for a living and stuff. And she is fantastic at it, but she gets very, very shy when it comes to doing it's actually interesting. A lot of people get really shy on camera more than they do in person. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but yeah. So for a very long time, other than just our faith as a whole, I've also been making her listen a lot to teaching her about different belief systems and religions. Unfortunately, she is often at the mercy of hearing me, as you guys are right now, talk an incredible amount. So just to have a good appreciation, because we got friends who are Hindu and come from an Indian and Hindu background. So like I said, if you want to really follow Christ and be good to other people in this world, having a good understanding of where different people come from, their backgrounds, their viewpoints, it's important. And again, constantly coming at people and acting as if we are superior to them, but then not even giving any type of decency or understanding to different ways of being. It's just not right. What do you think?
I think that's true.
Yeah, that's true. She thinks I'm right. Yeah. What's up, Omar? Super happy to see you, my friend. Hopefully I'm not crickly crackling in the microphone right now. But we are literally about to be finished, so I'm going to have my wife read some of this last chapter, and if she doesn't feel very comfortable, this chapter is called what?
The last chapter, not just the page?
It's the last chapter we're going to do right now.
This is a whole...
It's not that long. Look at it. Look, she was scrolling through, and it's just a few pages long. She's about to say, But I love my wife. I'm just helping push her and encourage her to go a little forward.
Okay, I'm going to sound like a baby.
What is this chapter called?
Wisdom and realization.
All right, now speak loud and proud.
Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. Okay. The blessed Lord said, "Listen, Arjuna, I will tell you how you can know me beyond doubt by practicing non-attachment and surrendering yourself to me. I will teach you the essence of this wisdom and its realization. When you come to master this, there is nothing further that needs to be known. Of 10,000 men, perhaps one man strives for perfection. Of 10,000 who strive, perhaps one man knows me in truth. Earth, fire, wind, and water, air, mind, and understanding. And the one sense, there are the 8 aspects of my physical nature. This is my lower nature, but beyond this I have another, higher nature, the life that sustains all beings in the world. Know that it is the womb from which all beings arise. The universe is born within me, and within me will be destroyed. There is nothing more fundamental than I, Arjuna. All worlds, all beings, are strung upon me like pearls on a single thread. I am the taste in the water, the light in the moon and sun, the sacred syllable Om in the Vedas, the sound in the air. I am the fragrance in the earth, the manliness in men, the brilliance in fire, the life in living, and the abstinence in ascetics. I am the primal seed within all beings, Arjuna, the wisdom of those who know, the splendor of the high and mighty, I am the strength of the strong man who is free of desire and attachment. I am desire itself when desire is consistent with duty. All states of being, whether marked by sattva
or
rajas or tamas, proceed from me. They are in me, not I in them. But fleeting is the reward that men of small minds are given. They will go to the gods they worship, but my worshippers come to me. Though I am unmanifest, fools think that I have a form, unaware of my higher existence, which is permanent and supreme. Veiled in my mystery and power, I am not perceived by most men. Their deluded minds cannot see me, the unborn, the changeless, the undying. I know all beings who have passed and who will live now, Arjuna, and all who are yet to be, but I am beyond all knowing. All beings are born to ignorance, ruled by aversion and craving. This, Arjuna, is the primal duality that keeps them bound. But when a man is released from dualities, he can act purely without attachment and can serve me with all his heart. Those who take refuge in me, striving for release from old age and death, know absolute freedom and the self and the nature of action. Those who know me and the nature of beings, of gods, and of worship are always with me in spirit, even at the hour of their death.
Yeah. So, put a marker in there. Thank you, my huckster, for taking...
Who's talking?
So, who's talking? So, actually, yeah, that is a good thing. So, you don't actually really understand that. So, I'll have you hold this while I do the driving, because I'm not going to finish it just yet. So, as you were just reading, the idea of what we're seeing as we go through those passages of the Gita is Arjuna is a person, so just to rehash as well for anybody who does end up watching before I finish this, Arjuna is a soldier who's, in this story, the Gita is actually a little nugget from a much larger poem, but Arjuna is a member of a large family, and basically a lot of evil has been being done in the land from other members of his family, from different regions and territories. They're all about to go to battle with each other, and at the very beginning of the Gita, the concept is that he's starting to feel very much like, I can't do this. This is not what I want. I'm not going to kill my own family members. I don't care what the reason is. I don't care what's going on. I just can't bring myself to actually go through with this. So that's basically the deal. And so who's talking in the Gita is Krishna is God, basically, in this situation. And Arjuna has, when he says, like, I'm not going to do it, I can't do it, he's asked Krishna, who he didn't know was God in the flesh, he asked him basically to drive his chariot down into the middle of the field between all the armies so he could get a look at them. And that's pretty much what he was saying. I can't do this. I can't kill my family members. I love them. I just refuse. I'd rather die than to do this. Basically, Krishna then reveals himself to say, actually, you have to go through with this action. You are here, there is evil that needs to be crushed, and by not acting, you are not fulfilling your duty. So then he starts to, that's the whole thing. He reveals who he is, and it becomes this very long teaching about how in this life you have to act regardless of the outcomes. You don't need to worry about success, failure. You don't need to worry about the outcomes of any of your actions. That true success, or the true way to follow God in this story, as Krishna teaches Arjuna, is you are supposed to act knowing that in all things, if you're being selfless and just giving up your own desire, so the I, the me, what do I get out of this, is that ultimately God will in turn, or knowing that God is working through you through all good action, is basically that is you doing the right thing. So giving up any type of care about the results of things, and instead just saying, I'm going to do for others, for community, and those around me. That's what's happening here. The whole Gita is a poem of Arjuna and Krishna. So basically, this leader and God in manifest form, because Hinduism, in many capacities, and most Hindu scriptures, kind of has this teaching, basically, that God, every time, again, as we read through in chapter 5 or 6, he teaches Arjuna that every time that chaos starts to dominate, that people start to become overly unrighteous, he comes and takes the form of a human in flesh. And go on, bro. We got the green light. What you doing? Sorry, every now and then you have to give a little honk right there. I definitely was not going to not act. So, but yeah, basically the whole idea is just that God takes form in the flesh, and that's what's happening in this situation. So again, as a Christian, you can definitely see and appreciate how the Hindu concept is that Jesus himself was another manifestation of God in the flesh, but Hindus believe that there are endless amounts of that happening. Also, compared to the traditional Christian teaching, that there is going to come a time when Jesus returns and then begins the new heavens and the new earth, basically. And the Hindu teaching, which we'll get to that as we continue through Hindu scriptures over time, is that basically the earth and the universe and so forth has always existed and will always continue to be. Well, the earth hasn't always existed, but existence in and of itself has always existed, and God will always continue to create. And then at a given time, when things are at a point where it just needs to happen, it's like building a set for a play. And then when the play's over with and you're ready to move on, the Hindu teaching is then tearing the set back down and restarting again, making a whole new set for a whole new show, new everything. So that's kind of the Hindu teaching, which is obviously very different. So like I said, for me personally, as we continue to work our way through the Gita, as Christians and anybody, any walks of life who comes through it, is to appreciate different people or different viewpoints so that we can have love and respect for everyone as we communicate. Because your goal is not to go above and beyond out of your way to beat people and their beliefs down to try to change their mind with some type of aggression. Your goal is to present the gospel, the good news, and understanding of God to people. And then from there, that is only going to happen if you do it with respect and love. So that's kind of why, like I said, I'm doing this. I appreciate every last one of you guys who's taken the time to come through, everybody who's taken the time to watch the stream and listen. And I'm going to continue forward until we finish with the Gita. Then we're going to move forward to some other stuff. And next we're going to actually do something that's even more of a hot button issue. As we continue to do these Bible studies on a weekly and regular basis, one of the big things that I'm looking forward to doing after we're done with the Hindu text is diving into the Quran, because most certainly, especially in America and parts of Europe, Christians versus Muslims is like a very historic, huge problem. So I think another issue is just like how Christians often mock Muslims for not properly respecting the Bible. Muslims actually, a lot of Muslims do read the Bible. They just see things with their own biases going into it, whereas most Christians have never read 10 words of the Quran. So as we continue these religious studies, videos, and streams, that's one of the big things that we're going to get into is doing a study of the Quran after we finish the Hindu teaching. So we're going to really learn to appreciate and respect different walks of life, different people, so that we can go out and be representatives of Jesus in a much more sincere and better way. Because you got to think, when Jesus was walking this earth, especially in the Greco-Roman Empire, and if you have seen in any way, shape, or form me studying through the Roman Empire today in its historical context during the Bible study stream that I did today, which you probably haven't seen that, but if you did, you would have definitely understood that in the Greco-Roman world, it was very much normal for people to have different beliefs, different understandings, and as the Roman Empire spread, they welcomed all different new beliefs. So that's one of the big things for us, is not in that same fashion of welcoming all beliefs and saying they're all equally as true. But as Christians, I just want people to appreciate different walks of life. So that's kind of where I'm going to leave it at. Thank you so much to everybody who came through today. I'm going to end this like I normally do with a prayer. So do you want to bow your head with me? No?
Okay, I'm bow.
No, you don't have to turn the camera to you. Are you going to pray? Either way, it's okay. Yes. So, dear Father, thank you so much for this stream. I'm glad I got to have this time with everybody. Anybody who come through to listen to me read the scriptures of other people's faiths, and I pray that in any way, shape, or form, we were just able to learn together a little bit to be able to bridge some gaps here and show respect to other people of different walks of life so that we can be better at being lights for the world, and knowing even our differences even more, understanding our similarities and our differences. So God, I just pray for everybody who watched. I hope they come to know you and just understand your love and your mercy and your truth is endless and boundless, and that they just know to be able to trust you. And I pray your will be done in all of our lives, and blessings for everybody watching. So in your name, Jesus, I pray, amen. So yeah, sincerely, this is a well-rounded fella. I appreciate you, buddy. Thank you so much for taking the time to say that. It means a lot to me, sincerely. Believe me, when you do these things, like even on my Bible study streams, people of my own faith, my own belief, are constantly ready to say something. Not everybody. It just, from time to time, there's always people who got something hateful to say. And it happens, right? We live in a world where people have fear, where people have misunderstandings. That's really the problem, is we don't get each other a lot of the time. So that's kind of my goal here, is to just have a community where whether you're in the same belief as me or not, whether you come from the same place as me or not, it doesn't matter. We can just connect to each other and have mutual respect. That's the only thing I think is going to. Do you have any thoughts of your own that you was going to say?
I was just going to add that it's funny to me that even in Christianity alone, a lot of Protestants just have this weird animosity towards Catholics, which makes very little sense. My dad is very deeply passionate about every time we bring up Catholicism, he has like a oh my gosh, don't get me started attitude towards it.
Yeah, what my wife is talking about is, that's one of the things, like today during my Bible study stream this morning, for instance, is that a Catholic brother came through. I'm personally not Catholic myself, although I ain't gonna lie, I've throughout studying lots of church history and so forth, there's points where I've come very close, very, very close many times, inquired quite a bit. But an incredible amount of Protestant, I have a severe amount of respect for my Catholic brothers and sisters for the way that they study faith and church history, because a lot of my Protestant brothers and sisters, for instance, we go to a Baptist church, and a lot of my Protestant brothers and sisters don't know a hot spit and licky about anything that has to do with most of church history in the councils and the development of theology and doctrine. And I'm not saying that you have to be the world's best theologian or nothing to represent Christ, because you absolutely do not. You just need to know the bare minimum of the gospel. But a lot of Protestants are very uncharitable because of things that they've heard about Catholics and fellow believers and stuff like that. And it's very rude the way things are handled very often. I actually do personally, even in the online sphere, see more Catholics be respectful of different people of different walks of life than I do most of my Protestant brothers and sisters. So that's something I'm not saying that's just the way it is everywhere and all across the board, but it happens a lot more than you wish it should. Here in the Americans,
and really, like, the grounded point of all of that is that it is nothing but a crushing weight when you think that everyone else is wrong except for your own faith, and that you can't talk to them about certain things, or that you're prejudging them thinking that they're going to hell, even though at the end of the day, the root of it is God, right? So why would, if God sees that people are finding a route to him and trying to get to know him, why would he turn them away just based on like what avenue they're going at it from, unless they're sinning, unless they're doing it on purpose to denounce God or like get in the way of their faith. So for me, I definitely love that my husband studies all of these different avenues. Me, I haven't gotten into it, but I've always had an open-minded concept of we should just accept the way people are trying to get to know God in their own way.
well, so that's the thing, is just like she just said, she's never really personally gotten into it, but it is impossible for the most part to really do that, because most people,
unless you're you.
No, just as a Christian alone, trying to get a real grasp on like the Bible and things like that is like an impossible task. Just being realistic, it's like you've got this book that's got thousands and thousands and thousands of years worth of information and development and tradition and so forth. So it's like I said, as we're sitting here reading the Gita right now, I can read it and tell you my thoughts about stuff, but it's not like it's just so simple. So when we talk about people go to school for 10 plus years for theology and for masters of divinities and stuff to even get a remote grasp on the Bible, right? So we have to understand it when we try to respect different walks of life, different people, different faiths, different denominations, different belief systems and stuff. When we try to have any type of growth, connection, and respect for people, we just have to understand it takes a long time to even get a firm, healthy grasp on your own belief. To sit there and attack other people, other walks of life without having any understanding of where they're coming from is just, it's destructive. So like I said, That's really my whole goal, is to try to just continue to do religious studies here on this channel, along with, as a Christian, my own Bible study streams and stuff. But my goal is to continue these things so that we can just continue to build a community and share love with one another. So again, I don't know everybody who comes through here what your beliefs are, what your stances are on things, and I don't always need to know those things. As long as you're just here to listen, to learn, to work together, and just develop and grow and pray together. That's one of the most important things I can say is, even if you come through here and you're in a completely different way of being, a different walk of life, as long as we can pray together, that's a start. Anything's better than nothing is the way I would see it. So while I might have my very strong opinions on stuff, like if I get started talking about reincarnation and stuff, I'll give you my strong opinions about that kind of stuff. From a Christian stance, regardless, still, whatever we ever get into, I'm never here to argue and debate with people. It's always going to be some type of grace and love that we're just going to share. So I appreciate you guys very much. So thank you to everybody who's taken the time to stop through here. Going to continue doing these studies tomorrow. Well, I still got free time to do so. Papa Jake Derek Castor. Hopefully I said your name properly. At first, I did not know what I was reading, but now I'm saying Papa Jake Derek Castor. That's a fun name. So yeah, like I said, you are more than welcome to come join the Bible study streams. I think it's going to start. I don't know where you're from, but I'm on the East Coast, the Southern United States. So tomorrow around, I think it's 8 a.m. is when I'm going to be starting tomorrow's Bible study stream. So you guys are more than welcome to come be a part of that. And again, tomorrow, they get very long though. The Bible study streams like tomorrow's is probably going to be another 2 to 3 hours long. Did I get deep? We really get into the weeds. It's not just about reading like a couple of verses and then saying, here's what I think about it, like I do when I'm studying these other belief systems. It is going to be like a full-on, here we go. We're going to read entire chapters. So we just read all of Colossians today. I think what's up next is Thessalonians. So definitely tomorrow I'm going to be reading 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. I'm going to be finishing up the last 10 chapters of Acts, Genesis 25, 26, maybe all the way to 30. We'll see about that, see how much we can get done. And then as well, starting finally, we did an introduction to the history of Matthew today, the book of Matthew, and then we're going to be doing an actual full engagement with that tomorrow, reading the first couple chapters. So that's why these study streams last so long, is because I really try to get into as much information as possible.
And you have a lot of thoughts with information.
I do feel bad for you guys who come through. Some random person. I never ask for anything because I don't need or want nothing. But somebody sent me $5 today while I was in the middle of sharing my thoughts about something. I was like, "Hey, how you like that?" Who knew you could share your thoughts about something and somebody be like, "Here's some money."
Yeah, cheers to coffee.
You know how people play the guitar on the street and people drop quarters or whatever, or dollars in their guitar case. Imagine if I could just set up a little hat and a microphone and just start telling people what I think about stuff. He was like, "Here you go."
You mean like evangelist?
But different. Not like standing on a street corner and yelling, "You're going in hell." Instead, like sharing the actual gospel, the good news. But yeah, so thank you guys for coming through here. I appreciate you. My name is Andrew. This is my wife, Jess.
Yeah, that's me.
You're so pretty. I love you so much. Mom, did you have anything else that you want to say before we go? Any other thoughts you'd like to share during the stream?
Nope.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. All right. Well, like I said, tune in tomorrow for the Bible study stream if you're interested in being a part of that as well. Tomorrow I'm going to try to work through, hopefully in the next few days, going to completely finish off the Gita, and then we'll be done from there. But I appreciate you guys so much. God bless each and every one of y'all. And no matter who you are or where you're from, please just keep on going and do not give up. So we'll see you guys later. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.